Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unpontificated. And today I want to kind of talk about Tumbler Ridge and the shooting that happened there and the conversation that I think we really need to be having as a result of this terrible, tragic event. So, as you guys all know, last Tuesday at Tumbler Ridge in British Columbia, a shooter went out and we found out that now 8 people have died, 9 if you include the shooter himself. Has also took his own life. But 9 people have died. 6 children, 2 adults have passed away. So obviously this is a tragic, tragic loss. You know, children, adults, friends, teachers. The book of Romans tells us in Romans 12:5 that we are to weep with those who weep. So we do the best we can to kind of, empathize with those who have lost friends, lost loved ones. Obviously, it's very hard to, or at least we sympathize. It's hard to empathize if you've never gone through that ourselves. But the old cliche of, our thoughts and prayers go out to those who are mourning. Sometimes that's all we can say. That's the best we can do, at least from a distance, is to pray. Now, I remember when I first heard about this shooting, someone said that it was a woman who had done this shooting, which of course surprised me. Surprised a lot of people because usually school shootings are done by young white men, and so it's come to find out later that this actually shooter was not an outlier. This was done by a young white man, and this shooting was actually no exception. Now, before I go any further, I know some of you are already getting your knickers in a knot, probably. I just want to say one thing, is that I do find what Mark Carney did and getting all the political leaders on one plane and heading down there to Tumbler Ridge was a good sign of unity. It did show some unity there, and I'm not a big fan of Mr. Carney, but I'll give him, some marks for that. He did seem genuinely sorrowed by this event, as all the leaders did. I mean, how could you not? So kudos on that. Seeing our leaders there holding hands, showing a sign of unity at this time, putting kind of the political posturing aside. We have found out that the fellow who did this, Jesse, was transitioning. Was born a biological male and was transitioning to be a trans female. And I guess had been transitioning for about 6 years. He was 18 years old, which means that he was 12 when he started transitioning. I'm assuming, I haven't heard or seen anything, that when you say start transitioning, the puberty blockers are starting to get used, and all this stuff is what's happening. Now, I want to basically say one thing: just because someone is transitioning, and I've let me just say this: just because someone is transitioning, it does not lessen the horror of what was done, and it certainly does not excuse it at all. Right? And we don't want to transfer blame onto a whole group of people. Right? The overwhelming number of people who are struggling with gender dysphoria are not violent. Excuse me. Many are deeply hurting, and many struggle with depression and suicidal thoughts. Right? But what I want to talk about is, how are we as a society addressing this issue? How are we approaching this issue? And is the way that we're doing it working? I think this is the discussion that we need to have. I think I was watching, I think it was a CBC news, I forget which reporter was saying this, but when she mentioned that Jesse was transitioning, she said something like, there's been no indication that Jesse has been bullied, as if trying to give a sympathetic look to this killer. Right? It doesn't matter whether he had been bullied or not bullied. You can't go out and start shooting people, murdering people. You cannot excuse it just because you've been bullied. Many people have been bullied. Trans people are bullied. Non-trans people are bullied. It doesn't mean you can go out and shoot people. You just can't do that. So we can't go now around putting some sort of sympathetic eye on this fellow, right? But what I want to talk about is, are we handling this issue of gender dysphoria the right way? Over the past 10 years, 10 or so, maybe longer, right? But Western societies have increasingly approached gender dysphoria by affirming the person's internal sense of identity, and in many cases, attempting to alter the body to match the mind, right? To match that internal perception. So we're talking about social transitioning, medical intervention, hormones, or surgery, right? This has not always been the case. And historically, if someone has some sort of dysphoria, you've always attempted to change the mind to match the actual biological truth. For instance, if someone has anorexia, right, bulimia, whatever you want to call it, if someone, especially usually a young girl, believes that she is overweight, despite being dangerously underweight, you do not affirm her perception. You don't go around telling her, "Yes, dear, you are overweight. Stop eating." We don't do that. We treat the cognitive distortion. We treat the mind to match the truth. We help our mind align with the physical truth. Right? Now, I don't want you to think that I'm equating bulimia with gender dysphoria, but the framework, I'm talking about the framework of dealing with these dysphorias, with this misalignment with the mind and the body. I'm talking about that. Should we not get back to aligning the mind with the body and not affirming, not at all affirming what you believe about your body is the truth? I was reading another, all the forums online, where someone did say that initially in treating someone with gender dysphoria, someone who wants to transition, we initially always talk about the mind aligning with the body. That's what happens when they go to get started, I guess, with treatment. And then eventually, somehow the doctor or whoever is convinced, okay, let's stop that. Let's now switch to fixing the body to match the mind. I think we should never get to that point. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just talking to you now as a father, as a citizen, and as a Christian who believes that human beings are created intentionally. Right? If you read Psalm 139, verse 13, 14, it says, "You formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Right? And that is how I see humanity. Right? We're not cosmic accidents. I believe male and female are not arbitrary categories. I believe the body is not an enemy to be corrected, but is part of God's design. That's what I believe. Right? But at the same time, we live in a fallen world. So our minds can experience confusion. Our hearts can experience deep distress. Right? So, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. The battle often begins in the mind. So that is what needs to be fixed, I believe. So what is the best way? What is the best way, the most compassionate way to help someone whose mind, internal thinking, cognitive process is at odds with their body? Is it to change the body? Do you really believe that that is the most compassionate way forward, is to change the body? Or is it to bring the mind in harmony with biological reality? I believe the latter is the way to go. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's best. right? So I think these are questions we really need to have a conversation and not shut people down. But that's another thing is that people get shut down, and if they disagree with the way that I believe Western societies are going, this whole idea of changing the body is wrong. I believe it's just wrong. And don't shut me down. Don't shut us down just because we believe that. I'm not talking about cruelty. One of the things you always hear is would you rather have a dead child? Let's go again. In other words, the point is if you don't give in to changing the body, the child might commit suicide, right? Would you rather have a dead child than alive? I don't know. I forget how it goes now, but I think you know what I'm saying. Maybe put it down in the comments. Put it down in the comments. I just thought of this and I forget how it goes. But I'm not talking about being cruel, guys. We do have to, be compassionate when someone's going through a struggle like this. Gender dysphoria is a struggle and it's real. And we have to treat these with compassion. But we also have to treat them with truth in love. So Jesse obviously was in a terrible situation. 6 years has been going through this transitioning, and obviously I don't know exactly what happened, but we just know the result of whatever treatment. Well, again, I don't want to make blanket statements, but all I want to say is, please, look in the please leave comments about what you think. I just want to make blanket statements like, because of the transitioning, this is what Jesse did. All I want to say is, because again, many people who go through transitionings are not violent, but they are struggling. They do have an inner struggle, and I just want us to speak the truth in love, right? Truth without love is just harsh. So let's just be more understanding, but let's have the discussion. Let's have the discussion that in my mind, altering the body to match the mind is not the way to go. If you truly believe that every person bears the image of God, and that includes a young person wrestling with identity confusion, right? It also includes the parents trying to navigate it. It includes the doctors making those decisions. Right? And it also includes the grieving families who are now burying their children. We don't know, every detail of this case. We don't know every factor that led to this tragedy. So that's why I don't want to make, blanket statements. I don't know. We don't know what happened here exactly. But we cannot be afraid to ask whether the path we are on, culturally and medically, is producing wholeness, stability, and peace. It's this path is just, it's not a good path. I believe that's my thought. I'm willing to hear your thoughts on it, right? Because if it is the way we should go, then let's see the data. Because what is the data showing regarding how we're treating gender dysphoria, right? And if it's not going well, don't stay on this path. Don't stay on this path. Let's look at the data. If it's not going well, change it. My heart today is for the families who will forever, have their empty chairs at their tables. They won't see their kids grow up and live out their dreams. Won't see grandkids from the children they lost. It's very sad. It's very sad. We mourn with them. Our hearts are heavy, right? But can we, a lot of the time when you have events like this, what we start thinking about or talking mostly about, at least on the left, is gun control, right? Controlling guns, taking weapons off the street. And sometimes that's that's a discussion to have. But can we also have a discussion about how we're treating gender dysphoria? Can we have that discussion? Um, I think it's one that's good to have. For now, please, yeah, let's have the discussion in the comments. Let's have a discussion in the comments. Let's keep it civil. Let's keep it human, and let's remember the weight of what happened. Because it's people are grieving. People are still grieving, right? Because at the center of the story, it's not about the headlines. It's about the children, the parents that won't be coming home. All right, guys, that's what I have to say. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say, and maybe the discussion can start here. See you guys soon. Bye bye.